way, Jose.
Red Hot Gotsy, come subscribe, like, come subscribe, like, come subscribe, like, come subscribe.
No way.
Red Hot Gotsy. Alright, so today I'm going to be talking about Cobra Kai Season 6 in its entirety. Now, if you were a fan of Cobra Kai when it first dropped, you know that Season 6 actually dropped in 3 parts. Part 1 was on July 18th, Part 2 was on November 15th, and Part 3 was, you guessed it, February 13th. This marks 1 year since the series ended, and I not only wanted to celebrate the series as a whole, but what it's done for me personally. Cobra Kai started in 2018, and it quickly became one of the best spin-offs of all time. Now, that's not to say that this show is perfect, because it's far from it, but honestly, in terms of some of the movies and TV shows we've seen, this is one of the best sequels that we've seen actually carrying on some of the characters from the previous work, and some of the story arcs from the previous stuff. From the characters, the soundtrack, the themes, the fights, the nostalgia, the show has everything. I started doing this show a long time ago, maybe like 5 years ago, and it's been a while, man. I've done a lot of videos just going over my thoughts on characters, specific arcs, stuff of that nature, and I really liked, just talking with my audience, talking about different, just having different discussions on the show, and, just how I feel about different characters, and just like, how the fights were and stuff like that. I talked about nerfing characters, I talked about characters having plot armor, I talked about characters I love, I talked about characters I hate, and overall it was a good experience. Now, I know I already did videos on parts 1 and 2. Now, if you haven't seen those videos yet, go check them out at some point. But I wanted to make part 3, and I wanted to condense all of it into one video, so that when you wanted to learn my thoughts on the entire season, the fights, the themes, the music, the characters, you could just refer back to this one video. Don't worry, guys, I was not going to abandon part 3. I just needed to change the format of the video. But without further ado, let's just get into it, honestly. Let's talk about the season. Now, I do think Season 6 is one of the weaker seasons, so I will have to talk about some of the criticisms I have with it. Now, the season basically starts with everyone going back to their normal lives after defeating Cobra Kai in the previous season. Miguel and Robbie are cool now. Johnny and Daniel haven't started up their beef yet. The LaRussos are finally happy again after experiencing World War III, not only in their own home in Season 3, but in Season 5 in the dojo. And Chosen is just, well, Chosen. Hawk and Dimitri are cool in the beginning of the season, but then, the rest of the season happens and Dimitri is a douchebag. Anthony and Kenny are on rocky footing, but at least they don't bully each other, so that's a plus. There's not much I really have to say about Miguel and Sam in the beginning, honestly, because these first 5 episodes, there really isn't much for them to do. There's not really a huge overarching storyline or anything of that nature. So honestly, it's just kind of them just existing. Obviously, Miguel and Sam have to think about stuff that they're going to do after high school, like college and stuff like that, but that has nothing to do with the relationship. I mean, you could say there's the fact that Miguel wants to go to Stanford and, Sam wants to go, to Okinawa, which we find out later on at the end of the series, but as of right now, there's really no build up to that, and honestly, it wasn't really much of an issue for Miguel to begin with, or Sam, the relationship dynamic. So honestly, there's just not really anything of interest in this whole season. Now, honestly, I think Tori and Robbie are a significantly better relationship, not only because they have better chemistry, but because they do a lot more in this season. Obviously, I was upset with Tori when she made the decision that she made at the end of the, part 1 at least. And if you haven't seen my video talking about that, you could go check it out. But I feel like Tori's internal conflict is a lot more interesting in this season than literally anything Miguel or Sam do damn near in the entire season. I do like how Miguel and Robbie try to help Sam and Tori try to fix their beef. Because Miguel and Robbie, they became cool last season, so they're having a lot more time to, talk to each other, hang out and stuff like that. Now, even though they don't get much screen time actually hanging out or talking or anything of that nature, I do like that they're at least cool for most of the season, and they only have a little bit of conflict towards the end of part 1 and a little bit in part 2, but for the most part they're on the same team. The one thing I really hate about the show sometimes is the forced conflict, when it comes to Johnny and Daniel, or in this season with Hawk and Dimitri. But I will say that Tori and Sam's beef in the beginning of this season is more interesting than all of that other stuff. mainly because we've seen these characters naturally become enemies throughout the series, and it goes all the way back to like season 2 when Tori was first introduced. Johnny and Daniel's beef is basically played out at this point, and Hawk and Dimitri are beefing for literally no reason. Now, going back to Chosen, I actually really like how we get to see some of his internal conflict, where like he wants to be with Kumiko, but obviously, you know, he tried to kill Kumiko in Karate Kid 2, so she is not going to accept him, obviously. Like, I think it makes logical sense. So that makes him really depressed, and that makes him not want to go back to Okinawa. You know, I really also like that he wants to stay and help with the Sekai Tekai just so Miyagi's legacy is actually fulfilled. So he wants to fight Johnny just so he can keep the Miyagi-Do name. I really like the fact that we get redemption arcs for both Johnny and Chosen that not only feel authentic, but help us get a different perspective on everything that's happened throughout these past like 30-something years of not only the Karate Kid franchise, like the trilogy, but Cobra Kai. Some of the best characters in fiction are usually the ones that are antagonists, or like you can consider them villains in general, if like they're the main villain of the movie or TV show. And that's usually because their character arcs are very much like an example of characters that are morally bankrupt in the beginning, but make up for it in the end. That's usually because the reason that they become a villain is usually because of circumstance. Maybe they were lied to. Maybe it's because their family is evil, so like they are a part of their lineage and they have to kind of carry out the legacy, or something of that nature. It could also be because, like, I don't know, something like they were bullied as a kid, so they want to pick on other people to make themselves feel better, or maybe they feel like it's beneficial to them. So, you know, being an asshole is just something that they like doing because, you know, they're used to it. Two great examples of characters that, you know, have redemption arcs that people still look fondly on to this day are Zuko from The Last Airbender and Steve from Stranger Things. Now, I don't want to get too sidetracked, so let me go back to Johnny. Now, I think Johnny has a great arc, not only in this season, but in this episode, because he's really starting to come to terms with the fact that John Kreese is very much attached to his version of Cobra Kai, or Eagle Fang, however you want to put it. But he realizes that the name isn't important. It's about the people behind the dojo, the people that are actually teaching the students and the students themselves. Collectively, they can help the students win the Sekai Tekai. They just need to lock in. I'm glad that both Chosen and Johnny came to this conclusion, and they ended up settling their beef exactly like that. I also do like that Robbie's actually trying to genuinely help Kenny after all the stuff that, you know, he did in season 5. I'm just really upset that Kenny got 2v1'd by 2 girls. Like, that was a bad look, honestly. Like, bro didn't even stand a chance. Like, oh my god. I'm also glad that Sean ended up talking Kenny into joining Miyagi-Do to begin with, because honestly, Silver's version of Cobra Kai is like the most toxic thing, like ideology-wise, in the entire show. Kenny was really like, strike first, strike hard, no mercy. And then Sean was like, are you stupid? Are you 12? Bro, join Miyagi-Do, stop being childish. Sadly, we never see Sean ever again after this. Then we see Kreese show up in South Korea to meet Kim. Well, technically both Kims. The younger Kim, that's the daughter, and then the father. That's not only the origin of how Terry and Kreese learned karate, but it's also how they met Kim. I still think it makes absolutely no sense how this man is literally a wanted fugitive, and he somehow goes from America to Korea without being spotted, without being jailed to any degree. Nobody spots him, nothing, when he was literally in the newspaper. Like, I guess. Basically, he's just asking to recruit some of the students for the Sekai Tekai, and I guess Kim is just cool with that for some reason. I do also like that during the college storyline, during these 5 episodes, Miguel, Hawk, and Dimitri actually meet up with Kyler and Brooks, and they basically squashed the beef after, you know, everything that happened in the last, 6 seasons, or 5 other seasons. But I don't know, it feels kind of rushed to some extent. I mean, obviously with Brooks, he's just, he was scared of Hawk, I bet. Like, honestly, after that ass whooping, they even do like a flashback and everything. I love it. I absolutely love it. Cause I love season 3 Hawk. Like, that was a good arc and a good redemption arc. But Kyler specifically has been such an asshole to where I'm just like, what would make you change all of a sudden? Like, I get that people grow, people change, like, time, you know, changes a lot, but like, just what was the mindset? Like, what made you do it exactly? Like, I just don't understand that. I mean, I guess you could say the dude that was bullying Kyler in his new frat is kind of the reason for that. But honestly, I don't really see that as a reason, because, like, you could easily write Kyler to where, like, he's still a piece of shit, but, like, the guy who's bullying him makes him look weak, so he tries to inflict it onto others, kind of like a bully's, origin. Like, usually bullies are created because they're either something's happening at home or they're getting bullied by someone else. So I think it makes logical sense for Kyler to still be one, but it's whatever. It's not that deep. But going to the Johnny storyline, I really like that Johnny's trying to step up and he's actually trying to build a life for not only himself, but his, Carmen and the baby, and, for the future. But I was just really annoyed at Johnny, speaking to that real estate agent, because, like, honestly, like, Johnny just can't speak like a normal person to save his life, and that's coming from me. I do really like that fan of Johnny's in episode 2 actually showed up, and he was like geeking out and stuff like that when he saw Johnny, and he actually helped him get a sale on the house. So, it's really cool, because obviously you can't talk to a real estate agent to save his goddamn life. I also found it funny how Chosen was trying to save him at one point when he was talking to the real estate agent, but he just wasn't budging. I would cover this stuff in South Korea with Kreese, but like, it's like, Kreese, like, you should be dead. Like, you got bit by a freaking cobra. Like, you're like 90. You should, oh my god. I do also like that Miguel, Hawk, and Dimitri ended up defending Kyler from that one bully at his frat, and they mopped the floor with everyone, as they should. I also really like that conversation that Johnny and Daniel had, and it really shows that, Johnny's trying to change, like, he's taking steps in order to do that, and, I'm glad eventually Daniel actually gives him a job at the dealership, so that's really cool. The next episode is just Johnny and Daniel talking, everyone having the baby shower, and Daniel getting splattered with the baby reveal, paint, revealing that it's a girl, which is, he had a great line. It's like, I'm getting too old for this shit. Now, this is also the episode where we get introduced to Quan, our favorite crash out. Obviously, he's shown to be very formidable, and obviously he was built up to be one of the strongest characters in the series, at least for the teen, like, younger fighters that are, like, not senseis. I think it makes logical sense that he's also Robbie's foe, because at the end of the day, like, Robbie's only nemesis was, like, his own friends in, like, seasons 1 and 2, and then, like, Miguel. And of course, Kreese wants Quan to harness his rage and psychopathy, because Kreese has both of those things. And that eventually leads to both of their deaths. Of course, Kim isn't okay with this, because she's actually spent more time trying to train Quan, understanding how he is, how he's very impulsive, very vengeful, very rageful. And, Kreese sees that and he's like, oh, here's an opportunity to screw up another kid. So it just shows the difference between the two. Also, this is the episode where they start the whole, like, Sam and Tori have to be, like, angry at each other again, but I don't know, it's just really stupid. I don't even care about this. And of course, Devin's a part of it, because Devin is like the worst part of this entire season. It's like her and Dimitri, they're fighting for last place. I do like that after that really idiotic plot line where, like, Sam and Tori had to, like, be mad at each other again, we actually get a real conversation between the two. I think this conversation was actually better than the one that Miguel and Robbie had after their fight in season 5, episode 5. It's not that it was necessarily bad, it's just the fact that, they didn't really go into depth in terms of, like, all the events that happened throughout seasons, like, 1 to 4, leading up to 5, for them to, like, have that conversation. Obviously, they talked about, the school fight and the fact that, they both made mistakes on both ends, but, like, I feel like they didn't talk about everything that happened. I feel like with Sam and Tori, they talked about multitude of different things, just leading up to their beef, and, just like really everything. I feel like with Miguel and Robbie, they should have talked about the idea that Johnny was one of the main reasons that they were fighting to begin with, not just the school fight. Like, it was many different reasons to begin with. Now, I just want to cover this real quick because I have a little bit of a different perspective than a lot of people may think when it comes to the whole Daniel storyline. Now, the whole Daniel storyline, with Miyagi and the fact that he realizes that Miyagi did some, like, sketchy stuff back in the day, and he did not tell Daniel about it. I actually am fine with the fact that Daniel is kind of upset with the fact that he didn't, like, inform him on, some of the mistakes that he made in the past, or that he kind of just didn't talk much about his, like, younger life, like his life growing up, essentially, and some of the mistakes he made, only because, like, Daniel's made mistakes, so, like, he could have related to him in that way, and it could have helped him, like, understand that you don't have to be perfect, and that you can make mistakes. Now, I don't think this is a bad thing for Miyagi's character, only because I think at the end of the day, it makes sense for him to not want to share, his private life to Daniel. Like, he doesn't necessarily have to, but I think in some circumstances, like, it could have helped him. Now, I was kind of worried that they were going to assassinate Miyagi's character, but honestly, I don't think they did assassinate him, only because, like, the stuff that he did, they were mistakes, and, like, for example, when he killed the one guy in the Sekai Tekai, that was a mistake, and when he was stealing the necklace back, obviously that was from his mom and stuff like that, or I think it was grandmom, or something of that nature, right? So, that is just fine to me, because you're taking something that was stolen. I also find it funny how they were like, oh my god, 6 fighters? We can only have 6 fighters for the Sekai Tekai? It's like, there's only 6 of you on that damn team that are good enough to do anything to begin with. Most of y'all are trash. Most of y'all are freaking extras. And of course, the whole next episode is everyone trying to prove that they're not an extra. They even do shots in the show to show that we obviously know that Miguel, Robbie, Tori, and Sam are obviously going to be a part of the 6. Like, there's no question of that. And then the next thing would just be picking your next 2, and it would be Hawk and freaking Kenny. Like, I'm not picking Dimitri, I'm not picking Devin. Freak both of them. Basically, the rest of the episode is just, characters training, to prove that they're not extras, Dimitri being a loser once again, and then characters training once again. And you got even freaking Anthony talking about, oh, I can't throw hands, oh, I get a bloody nose, like, I don't care, like, you're trash, like, get off the freaking screen. And then we have that scene where Johnny and Mike are fighting, and it's just like, why are y'all fighting that close to the saw? Like, somebody could get hurt. And I was always looking at that scene like, bro, somebody could die, like, for real. Like, cause you two are like senseis. Like, what, like, basically, like, why are y'all, whatever. And I would like the heart-to-heart more that they had, where Mike was basically, just spilling out his guts, spilling out his feelings about the fact that, karate has basically kind of stirred up the pot with him again and made him, more angry, more like vicious, more wanting to fight more again. Kind of like how he was in Karate Kid 3. So you can kind of see some similarities in terms of like how his character has progressed and how he's trying to fight his demons essentially. And I would like this conversation more, this heart to heart, if it wasn't about Devin. And then the next scene is literally Kenny shitting his pants because of Devin being a piece of shit, and Hawk literally getting bodied because of Dimitri also being a piece of shit. So it's like, honestly, now that I think about it, this might be one of the worst episodes in the show. Like, you make the whole episode about something that's so obvious. You ruin the chance that Hulk honestly should have with being in the Sekai Tekai in the to begin with, when he obviously should have been in there. And that's basically what, even Daniel said that. You ruin Dimitri even more, and you ruin Devin even more. And then you ruin the conversation with Mike. Like, it's just like this, oh my god, this episode is so bad. I swear, Devin literally made the beef between Kenny and Anthony so much worse when it really did not need to. It didn't need to be. Like, legitimate, I could have gone without this rivalry in this season. And the beginning of episode 5 is basically just Tori being manipulated by Kreese into joining Cobra Kai again because, well, I honestly, like, again, how the freak did Kreese even, like, go from South Korea to freaking America? Like, he went there, then he went back. Then he went back again, right? Because he needs to go back to his students just so he can fly them out to Barcelona. I don't understand. This is also the episode where Johnny and Daniel's beef starts again. Like I said earlier, it was just a matter of time. I mean, I get being internally biased when it comes to your students, especially like, when you have spent more time with them than you have like with the Miyagi-Do students, specifically for Johnny. And then with Daniel, it would be obviously he wants his son, he wants Sam, and he wants like Robbie to be up there. And then the next scene is basically, Miguel might not get into Stanford, next. No, the next scene is one of the most gut-wrenching scenes in the entire show. Honestly, I think Peyton List is probably the best actor in this entire season, and it's because of this scene where she actually has to act out her mom dying, and I think it's the best acting in the entire, not only first part, but probably the whole season. Honestly, the only other thing that tops this is the scene after this in the same episode when she's fighting Sam and, she has her crash out moment, but other than that, I mean, yeah. I'm also glad that those theories about like who killed her didn't actually come to pass, because like at the end of the day, I really hate the idea that like Terry killed her or Kreese killed her or just some stupid crap like that. Some people even theorize that like Kreese was like Tori's actual like dad or something. I don't know, some stupid crap like that. I'm glad that wasn't the case. Honestly, the only actually important scenes in this episode are the ones with Tori, and, you know, it makes sense because, like, this is the arc where she eventually, you know, joins Cobra Kai, you know, afterwards, and it also is setting up the cliffhanger because, like, if you were watching when the episodes were being released or the, you know, parts, this is, like, setting that up when she joins Cobra Kai. And, you know, honestly, it's like, when you see the flashbacks with her mother and stuff like that, you see how much of an impact she had on her and like how much she was fighting for and how much she's lost. This is also the episode where Miguel and Robbie fight again, and you know, we already know that they're not gonna let Miguel win against Robbie again, because then it would be like the 16th time. So yeah, they gotta give Robbie one, at least one. And then after their fight, you get the scene where, again, I said it's one of the best acted things in all of Cobra Kai. You get, you know, Tori actually revealing the fact that her mother died, and everyone has like a, you know, a gasp and is kind of just like shocked and everything like that. And, you know, she wants to fight Sam. She almost killed Sam, actually, to be honest with you. And then they all have, you know, that debate about like, oh, should she have fought and stuff like that. And even Johnny and Daniel are arguing about it. And honestly, I really hate the forced drama in this show. Like, and this was one of the examples that I brought up earlier about Johnny and Daniel just like fighting over nothing. Like, it's really stupid. Because honestly, I brought this up in one of my previous videos. If you haven't seen it, it's basically where I go over part 1 and I go over the fact that Tori did not need to join Cobra Kai, and she honestly could have fought if she just fought one of the senseis. Honestly, I go more into depth with it in my previous video, so just go watch that. So then, you know, Robbie becomes captain, Sam becomes captain, and then the next scene is Daniel realizing that Mr. Miyagi was actually in the Sekai Tekai. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying, where like I kind of defend Daniel a little bit by like Mr. Miyagi never gave him enough information on like who he was, what he did, you know, the accomplishments he had. And I guess again, it goes back to like he did kill someone during the tournament, so like having that in hindsight makes more sense. But it's like you can understand from Daniel's perspective why like just having this information without the context would hurt him. And then the end of the episode and the end of part 1 is just Tori obviously betraying literally everyone for reasons. And of course, Kreese's cringy ass is like, let the games begin. Like, shut up, Grandpa. Okay, now we're at the start of part 2. Let's begin. So basically the beginning is just, you know, the announcer guy just giving the ins and outs of what the Sekai Tekai is going to consist of. You have Robbie being confused that his girlfriend just joined the enemy team, even though he did absolutely nothing to stop it. Like, why didn't he talk to her, text her? Like, how does he not know that she joined? Like, did she just do this, like, secretly, didn't talk to him, didn't, like, did he contact her whatsoever? I don't even remember at this point, because it's like, you didn't go over her house or, like, anything? You didn't, like, run after her, like, when she, like ran off or anything like that? You didn't try to talk to her at all afterwards? After your fight? Like, it's ridiculous. And it's understandable why Tori would want to fight, you know, and try to get her anger out and try to just like, you know, mourn her mother her own way. The problem is like she's doing it through Kreese in order to win the Sekai Tekai, when Cobra Kai is part of the reason why she's in this situation to begin with. Like, you know, she felt abandoned by Kreese when he was in prison. So it just doesn't make sense that she would just go back to Kreese after all of that, especially when Kim also was technically abusing her, or letting her abuse herself technically, by damn near breaking her hand on the stone. So afterwards, we get some sweet shots of Barcelona, some of the food, some of the culture and stuff like that. And honestly, it looks really beautiful. I'd love to visit that someday. You got Johnny and Daniel continuing their BS, and then you got Robbie sulking over Tori, and then, you know, obviously Quan's trying to aura farm, which, you know, he has none. Okay, maybe he has a little bit, just a tiny bit. Then again, by episode 10, he loses all of it. So yeah, it's like I know how this ends, so like I'm kind of conflicted. Then there's the scene where Tori's talking to Kreese and Kim in the hotel room, and honestly, it just kind of, I just kind of have to recant what I said earlier. It's like, why Cobra Kai again? Like, this is the same chick that again broke your hand, and then Kreese's Kreese. Like, you already felt betrayed by him. Like, he's already a piece of crap, and he revealed that already. It's so interesting how the last person Johnny fights in the entire series, and basically just is the reason that, you know, everything is happening. Like, in terms of like, the main threat is the Iron Dragons, and we know that, you know, in the future. And it's like Axel just gets defeated, and then the last fight of the entire series is Wolf, and he gets introduced because he's fighting with Johnny over steak. I love this show. And then we get the introduction of Zara, and, you know, she's messing with Tori, talking about, oh, Robbie's cute, I'm trying to talk to him. And Tori's just not having it. She's like, I'm just fed up with life in general. Like, you could just have him. No, I'm just playing. It's more so like, Zara is actually, she starts being interested in Robbie because of that fact. And what makes her interesting is she's not played off to be like sympathetic necessarily, not like Axel, which, you know, I have issues with the whole Axel, Sam, and like Miguel love triangle, if you want to call it that. I already made a video about that. Again, you can go watch that if you want to. And I already made a video also about the whole Zara, Tori, Robbie like love triangle as well, because I also consider that a love triangle. So I already made a video about that. You can watch that as well. But basically, I think that Zara is more interesting only because I don't have to feel bad for her. She's just kind of like, I don't want to say evil, but she's an antagonist, and she's entertaining at the very least. Also, I feel like she does more damage to their relationship than like what Sam, or than Axel does to like Sam and Miguel's relationship. The main scenes involving Johnny, Daniel, and Kreese, and also Chosen, are basically just Daniel trying to find out more information about Mr. Miyagi, you know, after, you know, finding out that he was in the Sekai Tekai, which is important. And then you have, Chosen showing up drunk and just, you know, just wreaking havoc, you know, just causing a ruckus and making Miyagi-Do honestly look bad. So yeah, this is not good for their dojo. And Johnny was also beefing with Kreese even before this about, and he was, you know, holding the knife as well. Kreese was holding the knife, which is going to be very important later on. The scenes with Quan and Robbie basically just established that they're going to be rivals instead of, like, for example, Quan and Miguel, which honestly, I find this way more interesting than if he was like Miguel's rival or anything like that. Because again, I feel like Robbie and Quan like bounce off each other in terms of like personality wise, like a lot better. And it's just honestly, it's more intriguing for some reason. I think it's the idea that Robbie used to be in Quan's shoes, used to be top dog, used to be, you know, the Cobra Kai student, who also even taught other students in the dojo some Miyagi-Do, so he tried to make them stronger. Like, he was top dog at some point. So seeing the perspective of like being a Miyagi-Do student, have to go against one of the top Cobra Kai students is very interesting. And it's like Robbie has been really fighting his demons, like, when it comes to Cobra Kai, because at first he had to go up against Miguel. That was his main rival, and he was Cobra Kai, and he saw him on the same level as he sees Quan, because he was just pure evil at that point. But then, you know, obviously, you know, stuff changes, and like their rivalry progresses up until a point where they end up fighting for the last time, and they kind of just like reconcile everything. Even before that, like, Robbie was starting to feel bad a little bit because of the fact that he kicked him off the railing. But then, you know, because of the Cobra Kai brainwashing, he became the thing that he hated. And now he's brought himself back to the point where he is on the good side again. And he's seeing, you know, basically what he used to be. Then they do like a dick measuring contest, and, you know, Quan obviously wins because he has the best kicks in the entire show, basically, in terms of like combat and stuff like that. Also, he has some of the best combat speed. And it's really strange that they end up betting their rooms on this whole like kicking competition. Like, I would never do that. If I was in Barcelona, I'm chilling. Like, I am not gonna sit here and mess up my like comfortability in like a foreign like place. I'm not gonna lie. Now, we have two interesting scenes near the aquarium tunnel thing. And they both involve Tori. Now, one actually feels very heartfelt. It feels very warm. It feels very, you know, just great, and just like, you know, I think it's good for the series. And the other pisses me the hell off. Now, I'm gonna just get it over with. I'm gonna just say the one that comes first. Robbie, what the hell? What the hell? This is what I'm talking about. Robbie's a shitty boyfriend. Like, how do you hear your girlfriend say that, yeah, the guy who I used to do karate for, the guy who trained me, who's also a war criminal, yeah, he's back, and he low-key wants me to join. He's also a fugitive too. He wants me to join his dojo. Should I do it? And then you just kind of just like, I don't know. Like, god damn, Robbie. Like, I wish they didn't introduce that into like the series. Like, they didn't like write that in, because like it makes Robbie look really stupid and just like a really, I don't want to see, not just a bad boyfriend, but a bad person. Now, obviously, I don't want to say that about Robbie, because, you know, there have been plenty of seasons where, you know, we've seen his character develop, you know, grow, and we've seen him, you know, have a very heartfelt moments with many characters, especially Tori. Like, they had a great relationship up to this point. And it's just like, I just don't like how this season is writing him. I don't think overall he's bad. Just in this season, he's not great. Like, part 1 and 2 just don't do him justice, honestly. Besides, like, maybe like, we'll get to it. The last thing I want to say about Robbie, honestly, when it comes to this episode, is just like, everyone knows he's a terrible boyfriend. Like, they even have this whole like mini argument about it in this episode, like before they actually fight the Iron Dragons. Like, everyone knows, like, he's just being a shitty character in this season. And then he later on crashes out on Tori. It's like, bro, you were part of the problem. Like, what are you talking about? Why are you trying to sit up here and act as if you're like inherently better? And then the next sequence, or a couple sequences afterwards, is the tournament. And the tournament starts, and basically everyone's duking it out. You got Tori, Sam, Miguel, Hawk, Robbie, you know, Dimitri, everyone just duking it out. And Quan as well. And obviously Miguel's like doing, you know, the best because he's Miguel. And of course Dimitri gets one shot because he's just the greatest character in the show. Honestly, Devin isn't much better. She gets bodied very quickly as well by Tori. Packed the hell up. Honestly, I feel like Sam did okay, honestly. You would think, like, she would be one of the first ones to go down, but, like, nah. And, of course, Robbie had to go down because he was looking at goddamn Tori. And then Cobra Kai wins, and that's when the Iron Dragons show up, and then I'm kind of surprised, I'm kind of intrigued, like, who are they, and how powerful are they? Because all their teammates just kneeled completely. They just bent the knee, and then Axel and Zara just cooked. And then we got to see just how overpowered they actually are. And they sweeped Cobra Kai. And then it's revealed that Wolf is actually going to be the main villain of the entire series. You know, at least Johnny's villain. And, you know, Axel and Zara are going to be the main villains for Miguel and Tori. Now, basically, the beginning of this episode is just everyone getting absolutely obliterated. This is episode 7. Now, it just shows that basically everyone's off their game, and then, you know, they have a little, you know, talk about it afterwards. They kind of huddle up, if you will. In the sense that they just talk to the students and just basic stuff, basic training. They kind of argue a little bit. Kreese is starting stuff with Daniel, and Zara is starting stuff with Sam and Devin, and basically the rivalries are being solidified. And this is kind of what I'm talking about when it comes to Robbie. Like, the next scene, or the next couple scenes, is like literally Robbie getting crucified by Dimitri and Hawk. And Miguel's just kind of there, just kind of like, not necessarily like he's kind of thinking the same thing. He's kind of thinking like, Robbie's being trashed right now. And Miguel's obviously doing the best out of anyone. Everyone else is doing badly. So I guess in a technical sense, I do think it's a little bit hypocritical that Dimitri and Hawk are talking shit when they are doing just as bad as Robbie, in some of these fights. Now, basically, Daniel's whole part in this episode is just trying to find more information about Mr. Miyagi, and then he ends up getting, you know, sent on this wild goose chase, and then he gets, you know, knocked out and locked up in a cage by one of Kreese's men, his henchman, his goon. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, I just wish, man, Kreese is one petty motherfreaker. Like, it's like, I wish Daniel had some way to apprehend the individual that was like trying to keep him in the dog cage, so that he could just like show him to the authorities or like the people who work at the tournament, so that they could just disqualify Cobra Kai. Cause it's like the evidence is right on his arm. Like, it would be so easy to just get them all disqualified, but obviously there's no like real evidence, and the guy probably could just run away or whatever. So it's just, it's whatever. Now, obviously, he's about to beat the hell out of Kreese, but he can't because it looks bad on him, technically. And again, he doesn't have any real evidence against him, so we can't really do much about that. And, you know, Sam sees him about to beat the hell out of Kreese, so he has to stop, and he just reassures her that, you know, everything's fine, and he doesn't want to destroy her focus, and he wants her to focus on the tournament, so he doesn't really inform her on everything that literally just happened. Now, basically, Johnny, this whole episode is, dealing with Wolf, and, they kind of start their little beef, and they're arguing for a little bit. And, basically, afterwards, he's trying to actually just teach all the students to, lock in and actually try to learn, his version of, well, it's not even Miyagi-Do, it's just Cobra Kai, basically, but just slapping Miyagi-Do's name on it. He's trying to get them to use more offense, and it's just not working for them. And even though, obviously, for example, Sam and, Dimitri and stuff like that shouldn't really be, even with Robbie, I feel like he should be using more so Miyagi-Do than Cobra Kai, even though they could be using a mixture of it, because Hawk can use both. I do think that, fundamentally, they would just lose and, keep losing regardless of what style they use, because, they're just not focused enough. Now, the one scene in this season that I can actually stand Devin is when she's talking to Johnny, and she basically confesses the fact that she screwed over Kenny, and she was the one who put the laxatives in his drink. And I'm glad she actually confessed it and actually feels bad. It makes me hate her a little bit less. But at the end of the day, well, I don't hate her. She just frustrates me. But at the end of the day, I think Johnny handled that the most mature way he possibly could. And I really like that about his character. He's growing. You could see it clearly. I feel like the older version of him would have, snapped on her or something of that nature, or probably kicked her off the team instantly. But this version, he actually, was trying to help her. And he didn't want her to mentally, not be in the right headspace to compete. He's definitely using a little bit of Miyagi-Do, which is basically what Daniel told him to do. Sometimes in life, you have to use these methods that you learn from karate in your teachings, or from your teachings, in real life. And honestly, I really felt bad for Johnny, man. And honestly, I wasn't sure where they were going to go with the, the end of this episode, where they basically revealed that Carmen, went to the emergency room and stuff like that. And I didn't know where they're going to go with that. I don't know if they're going to kill her off or anything of that nature, but I'm glad they didn't. And she basically was fine. It's just, it was just some minor issues. But at the end of the day, they had the baby, they had a pseudo marriage and stuff like that. I'm glad they had a good conclusion at the end of this season. And then you have stuff like the Sam and Axel storyline opening up, or the love triangle essentially. And I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't like Axel. I understand why people may have sympathy for his character and his situation. I don't think the abuse of a student is good, and I think it's interesting that they're tackling that sort of issue, but it's about the execution. And I feel like at the end of the day, there's a lot of issues with him, attacking Miguel, for example, because Miguel never actually did anything to him. He's really only attacking Miguel because he can't be with Sam. And I already made a video kind of explaining my thoughts on the love triangle in general, but to sum it up, really, I feel like some of the stuff that Axel does would not be acceptable if Robbie were to do it, for example. If he was doing that towards Miguel, people ridiculed Robbie throughout seasons 1, 2, even 3 and 4, where people started to actually feel some sympathy for him. And even I did. I was ridiculing Robbie in seasons 1 and 2, but then I started to feel some sympathy for him because I saw how much he was going through. But even though Robbie was going through a lot, nobody really gave him any sort of excuses, besides people on freaking Reddit. But other than that, the normal average person who watches the show, they're not super excusing every single thing he does and act as if he's a freaking angel. I think that's how we need to tackle this. At the end of the day, he is a victim because of what his sensei is doing to him, but Miguel does not deserve all of the ridicule and all the beatings that Axel bestows upon him, essentially. Also, when I was going over the video about the love triangle, I did kind of mention the fact that, low-key, I feel like even though he does have the abuse storyline, it's kind of pushed to the side in order for the love triangle to flourish. And I feel like that's an issue overall, because I feel like the abuse storyline is more interesting. And I feel like if Sam actually alerted to other people, maybe Daniel or Miguel himself, Miguel would actually be able to understand more so why he's doing all this, but she never gave him any context. Or maybe she did, but I don't know, it doesn't really seem because we never could have seen of her actually going over everything. I feel like that scene where she actually goes over everything with Daniel, for example, would have been very interesting because we actually get to see it connect to like all the wolf stuff with Johnny, because Johnny is literally the main character. So like honestly, all of that being tied together would have been so interesting, but we just never got to see any of that because they kind of kept it separate. It's almost like the Axel stuff is just for Axel, but it doesn't really connect like to the overarching like plot like revolving around the Iron Dragons. It's just kind of like Axel's thing. The last thing in this episode is the Miguel stuff. Now, obviously, I'm on Miguel's side when it comes to Miguel and Robbie's like argument. I feel like overall, Miguel has some good points, and you know, Robbie is slacking for like most of this half, like the second half of season 6, because I feel like fundamentally, he's focused so much on Tori that it's just screwing up his entire mindset. But the problem is, it's like, they already had that argument where they hashed things out. And at the end of the day, she doesn't trust him. He is frustrated with her. Like, I feel like even Tori is locked in with her fights, or at least to some extent. I mean, she's kind of messing up a little bit, but it's not nearly to the same extent as Robbie. And Robbie didn't even tell the rest of the group when Tori had that conversation with him to begin with. It's like, I feel like Robbie isn't even doing all the steps, and he didn't even talk to her when he found out that her mother died. Like, Robbie isn't doing anything that he should be doing. So like, low-key, yeah, I'm on Miguel's side, to be honest. I know it really sounds like I hate Robbie, but I really don't. He's actually my second favorite character, to be honest with you. And I know it sounds surprising given the fact that, you know, I've been crucifying him in this review, but honestly, really looking back at the season overall, it's just, there's so many issues with his character, and it's not necessarily because of him fully, it's more so the writing and it's just how they're writing him, because I don't think in other seasons he would be doing all the crap that he's doing in this season. But honestly, at least I like what Miguel is doing. Like, I like the fact that Miguel is carrying the team, and you know, he's doing his part. And even though Robbie eventually starts locking in, I think it just happens a little bit too late in the season, and there was too many weird character choices that he made even before this part even started. Now, basically, the whole part with Johnny and Miguel going back to the valley is basically they're just on the plane for at least like most of the episode, and they're just annoying each other. Like, Johnny is just annoying the flight attendant, and Miguel is just not having it whatsoever. He moves to a different part of the plane just because he's annoyed, but then Johnny follows him, and you know, he hits that one guy because he was annoying, and basically they just have a conversation about, you know, just how stressful it is and how much they're worried about Carmen. And then they actually land, and you know, they're worried at first because they see blood on the hospital bed, and you know, Miguel's freaking out, and I think that's actually great acting from Xolo Meleduena, I think it is, I don't know, from Xolo specifically. And you know, obviously she's okay, and you know, I'm glad they didn't like do some like drama, some extra stuff where they like, kill her off just for like the sake of extra drama or anything of that nature. Like, I'm glad she's okay. And yeah, I think it's a wholesome scene where, like, honestly, some of the baby stuff where like Johnny's, you know, interacting with Carmen, and you know, they're just planning, you know, the future and stuff like that. I think those are some of the greatest scenes in this season, because it just shows just how far Johnny has come in general as a character. And yeah, I really like scenes like that. Now, the next stuff in the episode is basically the stuff with Chosen, Daniel, and Kreese. Now, Kreese is just completely just brainwashing Quan at this point. Like, Quan thinks he's like on top of the world, you know, he's about to win the Sekai Sekai. He's one of the strongest kids who's like fighting there, and he has his psychotic sensei who's like on his side, who's encouraging him to do all this mischievous stuff, and he's going along with it because he's an idiot. And Kim's obviously arguing with him because she does not support any of this at all, and she's actually trying to support more a moderate style of doing things, to where they just, you know, they fight hard, and they don't try to get into any extra drama off the mat. And I think that's actually reasonable, and that's logical, honestly. I mean, Kreese is really trying to use these karate students as child soldiers, as if like this is an actual war they're fighting. Like, this man needs help, man. Obviously, everything he's doing is getting under Daniel's skin, and you know, he's not having it. So he's like, all right, what do we do about it? And even Chosen's trying to chip in. Now, Chosen eventually ends up finding the kids at that bar or club place or whatever. He gets stopped by the bouncer, so obviously he can't, cut the line and everything. And then he finds out that Kim is there, so he's annoyed, and then they start arguing, and then the bouncer is about to kick them out. And, so they just go to try to find more of the kids. And obviously Kim gets stopped by the drunk dude. She gets annoyed because they're hitting on her, harassing her, and so she beats the hell out of him. And Chosen ends up helping because he's the GOAT. Then after that, they start arguing at the bar once they get back to it, and then they start making out. And honestly, I ship them. Now, eventually they get done during the nasty, and they have a coffee, break and just kind of like talk for a little bit in the morning. And eventually, they're about to like head out. But then Chosen bumps into one of Terry Silver's goons, and well, then he notices the Cobra Kai tattoo. They follow him, and obviously they get Daniel because, this is an emergency. And, then the whole reveal happens where Kreese is also there, and there you have it. You have Terry Silver and some random asshole from Karate Kid 3 that nobody gives a damn about. Honestly, I do think it's kind of iconic how he's just smoking the cigar in the hot tub just like he did in Karate Kid 3. Like, it does kind of, like, I do like when this show uses like nostalgia in like a funny way to kind of show just like that these characters sometimes just never change, honestly. And sometimes they do in cases where it's like Chosen or Johnny who's involved. But like, even with Daniel, sometimes like they'll flash back to the past, like, especially when he did like the crane kick against Terry. Like, stuff like that is really cool because like it just shows just like how much these characters have grown. Cause back then he wasn't able to take down Terry at all because he was a student, like he was a kid. But now he's like all grown up and he's able to just use the crane kick against Terry. And funny enough, like he was even making fun of him, saying like, "Oh, use the crane kick, Danny boy," like stuff like that. And it's just like I just love callbacks like that. Now there is a plot line where Devin is confessing to Kenny finally after the incident, and Amanda's trying to get Anthony and Kenny to like squash their beef, but honestly it's pretty self-explanatory. Like I already kind of went over my thoughts on this. I don't really feel like rehashing it. And there's also a plot line where Sam and Robbie are basically just talking about the fact that their significant others are elsewhere doing other crap. And, obviously Robbie's, very sad. And he's on the level of like wanting to drink, which is actually a lot worse for him than people would actually believe. Because of this whole Tori situation is literally making him want to become like his dad and cope with his bad situation with drinking. And that's actually really bad because it's destructive and it ruined Johnny's life, or at least helped in the process. So the fact that Robbie is taking on that sort of character trait, or at least he is kind of hinting towards it, is not only telling, but it really just shows how like bad this situation is hurting him. And because Miguel's gone, Sam basically has Temptation, i.e. Axel, to talk to, and basically the whole episode is essentially a test to see if she's willing to fall for the temptation. There's a scene on the beach where essentially he takes his shirt off and he shows his, bruises from when Wolf was attacking him or assaulting him essentially, and she was worried, so she, they had a little conversation about that. And then they walked off, had a deeper look at like, the city of Barcelona and stuff like that. And then they ran into Quan, and then he started, shit with him. Honestly, I feel bad for Yoon because Yoon's kick literally did absolutely nothing to Axel, and he just stood there like a brick wall, and then he just proceeded to beat the hell out of him. And he even was standing up to Quan, and obviously Quan later on we already know how that fight's gonna go. So Axel and Sam end up running away, and they're like, phew, I guess we lost them. And then Axel ends up trying to kiss Sam. She rejects him gladly. She's learned from other seasons. And then she gets away, and then he walks away as well. And it's just kind of a awkward situation. This episode also shows Dimitri also being a piece of crap once again, cheating on his girlfriend, which he does not deserve. He really doesn't deserve to even be in the Sekai Tekai to begin with. Yeah, just Dimitri might actually be the worst character on the show. And honestly, given the last couple episodes, I'm gonna say he's significantly worse than Devin, honestly. I wouldn't even put Devin quite there anymore, because at least she has sympathy for what she did, and her and Kenny actually have a decent relationship, like, in character moments afterwards. But with Dimitri, there's nothing. I just don't care. Like actually, and I'm not even just talking about in this season, he might actually be the worst character in the show, like, period. Zara's basically starting stuff with Tori the entire freaking episode, and it gets to the breaking point. So, you know, they have a little argument at the bar / club thing, and, you know, Tori's basically foreshadowing episode, what is it, like 13, I think, when she beats the hell out of Zara. It's kind of funny, because it's like, I kind of had a feeling that it was going to be foreshadowing, but I just, like, I wasn't sure, and, you know, gladly I was right. Now, Kwan's basically just messing with Robbie, acting as if he's with Tori, or they have like a fling thing, something of that nature. And it kind of comes into question, it's like, if you guys are on break, why would you even think that to begin with? Unless he's assuming that, like, she's just, like, cheating. Because, like, they're technically still in a relationship. So it's like, I guess he's making that implication. But at the end of the day, like, to do what he did with Zara is, like, if he was in his right mind and he, like, purposely was drinking and he still was, like, aware of what was happening and he slept with Zara, then that's just another strike on Robbie. But I'm still questioning if he was in his right mind, and, you know, that could come into a completely different conversation, honestly, in terms of, like, what Zara did. And it's like, whatever. I really don't want to have that conversation again. I already made a video going over that. But, like, if he was in his right mind, I really just, this might actually be Robbie's worst season. Basically, episode 9 starts out with showing, you know, the backstory with Wolf and Terry, and basically just talking about the fact that, you know, like, Wolf is in a lot of legal trouble, and, you know, he's trying to get his dojo back. Obviously, he's in a lot of debt, and also he's trying to get ownership of the dojo back. But Terry can help him with that as long as he helps him, you know, destroy, you know, obviously the main characters, Miyagi-Do and stuff like that, Johnny and Daniel and, you know, the kids. And basically it's just like a evil business deal, essentially. And then it flashbacks to reality, you know, present day, and Kreese is threatening Terry to get out of the pool or tub or whatever, and he literally gets up and just shows his pelican to everyone. And he gets up and just basically aura farm and just walks out of the room. Kreese is all pissed off and wants to kill him, but then Kim is like, "Well, chill. We'll wait until the right time." And then basically they just, you know, don't do it. And he gets away again. Then the next scene is them just, you know, talking about the fact that Silver's back and just planning what they're gonna do. And honestly, we have a really good moment between Johnny and Daniel where they finally kind of just come to a consensus that they should probably stop beefing after, what, the 57th, 100th, 1000th time at this point. Like, I'm glad they're at least, you know, coming to a consensus and, you know, understanding that this rivalry needs to stop so that they can actually get to more pressing matters, like Terry Silver trying to take over the valley in, you know, the world. There is a little plot line where Hawk, Sam, and Dimitri are just contemplating if Kenny's actually a traitor or not, but I just don't care about this. I knew he wasn't. It's just ridiculous that they would even, like, add that. Like, Dimitri, oh my god. It's just more examples of why he's the worst character on the freaking show! So the Sekai Tekai battles start up again, and basically everyone's fighting. Cobra Kai, Iron Dragons, and you know, just everyone else, you know, all the dojos that don't actually matter. And this is basically the episode where they start actually really building up Axel as, like, this really overpowered, like, unstoppable character that in the future is going to be a huge problem. Actually, you could even say, like, last episode they were also building this up because of the fight against Quan and Yoon, but, like, yeah, like, this is another one that, like, helps solidify that, and the next one literally just cements it completely. And I really like the scene after all the fighting with the different dojos where Miguel and Robbie just get to have, like, a private conversation where Miguel finally apologizes for how he acted towards Robbie, which, you know, I really appreciate, and I'm glad that he did because it was needed because he was kind of an asshole. But honestly, I understand it given the fact that Robbie has not been locked in, like, this entire, you know, second part, and eventually in this episode he will be, but, you know, it just took entirely too long. But I'm glad that, you know, their beef, their little, you know, whatever that was in last episode is finally resolved. And honestly, I like these two more when they're not beefing. Well, actually, I do like them when they're beefing sometimes because I think it's interesting, but like, honestly, it's very wholesome seeing these two actually mend their like relationship, like their rivalry after all this time. So and it's just like, I think it's one of the best developed things in the entire show, honestly. And honestly, like their rivalry more than Johnny and Daniel's. And honestly, Kreese is really a freaking idiot because he literally brought a knife where a bunch of kids were going to be just to kill Silver. And it's like, why would you do this like here? Like, Kreese is really stupid, honestly. And this ends up leading to Kwan's inevitable demise because, you know, we gotta have a cliffhanger, am I right? I also really like that we actually do get a scene where Tori is struggling, and you know, the fact that Robbie was sleeping with Zara, you know, that actually does affect her, and it shows that like she cares about him just as much as he cares about her, and you know, because they're being affected the same way. I did say earlier that them going on a break didn't affect her as much as it hurt him, but at the end of the day, because well, I wouldn't even say assumed. He did sleep with her. Because he slept with her, like, this is, like, a little bit different, and it's a higher level of betrayal in her eyes. So, like, obviously, like, that's definitely gonna affect her, and I think that makes logical sense. Kenny has a conversation with Silver, and it's like, I already know he's not a traitor. I don't care. Like, they're not gonna make him a traitor in the last season. Like, come on now. And I'm glad that Robbie and Kenny actually do have that moment where he does tag in Kenny, and then Kenny puts in some work, and, you know, Dimitri and Hawk, you know, end up teaming together as well. And it's like, it's a whole thing, but like, honestly, it starts to make me think, why have Robbie and Kenny not interacted, like, for most of the season? Like, season 4, Kenny was introduced, and, you know, they were super close at first, and obviously, you know, he screwed up that relationship in the end, and then in season 5, he was trying to mend it and try to bring Kenny back to the light, and obviously that relationship was broken, but then in season 6, like, he fixed it again, because, like, Kenny's back in Miyagi-Do. Not back, but he's in Miyagi-Do. But then they just never interact. We never see them do anything, you know, like talk or anything. And it's like, that's sad, because like, that was a really good relationship I like to see, on screen. And honestly, it's kind of the same with, like, for example, Robbie and Daniel. We never actually see them interact with each other, like, in the season at all. Putting that to the side, though, I do really like the scene where we actually get to see all the kids, like, in the locker room, and it's a little bit different from the other scene in the other episode where Johnny's just, like, yelling at them, telling them, like, oh, you gotta lock in, you gotta strike first, strike hard, and it's just like, they're kind of doing their own thing. They're doing, like, what they are good at. Like, for example, Hawk is good at Cobra Kai, or, well, Eagle Fang, however you want to put it. Same thing with Miguel. He's kind of like a mixture. And, you know, Sam and Robbie can actually focus on what they're good at, which is Miyagi-Do. And the scene not only shows how strong they are if they're together, but it also shows that Robbie genuinely can be a leader, and they can have a strong dynamic if they actually let him lead, essentially. And the senseis didn't even need to get involved. Now, the next scene is basically just, you know, the rest of the Sekai Tekai, when it comes to the tag team battles. And these are obviously the main characters, like the Sam, Miguel, Tori, Robbie, you know, and Quan. Tori basically reveals that Robbie's an idiot, and he assumed that Quan was sleeping with Tori when obviously he was messing with her the whole time. And it's like, if Tori was really messing with Quan, wouldn't she just, like, say it? Like, I don't know. I don't think she would really, like, actually, I can't really say she wouldn't lie about it, because it's like, she did keep the secret about her joining Cobra Kai, so it's like, I kind of get it, but like, Quan is obviously an asshole. I don't know why you would take him seriously. And now finally Robbie actually locks in, and he beats the hell out of Quan. Now, the way I perceive this fight is not necessarily based off skill. It's more so based off the fact that Quan is, you know, very angry, and he's using his anger as a way to fuel him to fight more. But the thing is, that's actually what's holding him back. Quan isn't necessarily like significantly weaker than Robbie. It's more so the fact that, because obviously he was bodying him in the beginning of part 2, but the thing is, because Robbie's actually locked in, he is a lot more focused, and Miyagi-Do is actually very good against Cobra Kai. So I feel like it's more so like a counter. The thing is, Robbie just wasn't focused, but now that he is, it's like, it's a little different. Now, after they just got done celebrating the fact that Quan got his royal ass whooping, Terry actually shows up and talks to Daniel and gives him a little paper of the records of the old Tekai that Miyagi actually fought in. This is when they actually reveal the fact that Miyagi did kill someone during the tournament, and yeah, it really like sets off the whole chain reaction of him just like wondering how this could be, and what this means for Miyagi. And obviously I was still worried at this given point when they were handling Miyagi's character, with him not actually being here. Obviously I didn't want them to assassinate his character, and again, like I said earlier, they didn't, in my personal opinion, so I'm fine with this. And I understand why Daniel would be worried about the fact that he did this, and I think it's a good scene, honestly. The next scene is just basically Croesus being a crash out again. It's like, oh, I have the knife and I'm gonna kill Silver. Yeah, whatever. Alright, next episode. Now, one of the first scenes in the freaking episode is, again, Axel being a freaking stalker, freaking loser, who obviously has some sort of axe to grind with Miguel because of freaking Sam. Again, it's always the same plot line. Sam's in the middle of some freaking love triangle, and it's a bunch of conflict. Characters have to fight to the death for her, and it's always something like this, man. And that's one of my main criticisms of the show, is like the way they treat her character in the positions that they put her in like this. It's like they gotta, I would say they gotta stop with it, but the show's over, so. And I swear, literally the next scene is just Quan again being a crash out and just snapping on not only Robbie but Tori, and then Kim, literally their sensei, has to step in just to stop him. It's like, it's ridiculous at this point. Kreese is just holding that knife waiting to kill Silver, and we already know who's actually gonna get killed, so. And the very next scene is basically just describing, what's going to happen with the tournament. And because one of the teams got disqualified because of 4 of the students having performance enhancing drugs, essentially Cobra Kai is back in, sadly. And also Robbie has to fight Axel, so yeah, that's he's gonna die. One of the next scenes is basically just Kreese again trying to brainwash Tori, just like he brainwashed Quan, leading to what's going to happen later in this episode. And it's just like, it's really sad because Tori, still has a connection to not only Sam, Robbie, but like the other characters, in Miyagi-Do, but like Kreese understands that and he hates that about her, so he's trying to like remove that, like rip it out of her, it's like he's trying to rip out her heart, essentially. I also like the scene where Miguel is talking with Johnny and Daniel, and obviously they're beefing again after the 10,000th time, and he's trying to get them to, settle their differences after basically they're, arguing about the fact that their senseis are, a problem, and he's basically saying, suck it up, get over it, and let's lock in. Honestly, I'm on his side. I also like the training montage where they're going around Barcelona and they're like basically just, trying different, training exercises, and it's one of the most interesting, like, creative scenes, only because you get to see like many different parts of Barcelona, like the locations, the shots are very beautiful. And, it actually looks like they're really trying hard. And they even have like a Rocky reference, which is really cool. Quan then fights Diego and makes easy work of him. He's just absolutely fodder. Like, he just absolutely obliterates him and knocks him out, and then gains 27 more points for Cobra Kai. Again, any dojo that isn't the Iron Dragons, Cobra Kai, or Miyagi-Do are extras. The same thing goes for that Maria chick that was fighting Zara. Just absolutely obliterated, can't do anything. Now, while that fight is happening, we get one of the most interesting conversations, in my opinion, in the entire series. Tori is talking to Kim, and she's basically establishing the fact that, even though Kim has made all these sacrifices, friends, family, stuff of that nature, having a normal life, and she's gained so much, not only strength, but skill, and has, gained, all these students, and has pushed them so hard to be the strongest and the best of the best. She really asked herself, is it worth it? That conversation is very interesting to me because it's one of the most important in the entire show, but people don't understand that. People probably just brush this off as Tori just not respecting Kim for her, lessons and stuff like that, or just her as a person. But I feel like it's a lot deeper than that. This idea of being the best of the best is something that Kreese also shares, and he essentially views the world as like a war zone that, he has to fight in. And that's why he wants his students to be soldiers, to be ruthless, to be brutal, in order to fight in this world that's so just cruel to them. The problem is, if you win all the time and you become the best of the best, you have nothing to come home to. If you lose, it's even worse. You have absolutely nothing, and you fought for nothing. And that's kind of similar to what Johnny was going through in Karate Kid 1. His entire life literally just went down the drain in an instant. Lost the tournament, lost his girl, and his sensei tried to kill him. After that, I can understand if you never want to freaking pick up a karate gi ever again. Then the next fight is sadly Axel versus Robbie, and well, we already know how this is going to turn out. He really absolutely cooked him. And the thing is, it's I've never seen someone get this humiliated, besides obviously Miguel in the next scene where he's getting he's getting washed by Axel. Robbie can't do anything defensively or offensively. And of course, Quan has to be an asshole, and he elbows Robbie in the side while he's freaking fighting Axel. Then that sets off a chain reaction where essentially Quan is about to fight Robbie, Axel's about to fight Miguel, and then the announcer guy gets punched in the face. He gets absolutely decked, and then everyone just ends up fighting in an all-out war. And when I say war, I'm not joking, man. This is World War III for karate students. I'm not gonna lie to you. Even Chosen is getting his licks in. Daniel, on the other hand, is trying to stop everything, but obviously he doesn't have the power to do that at all. I really am mad at how he just made quick work of Miguel. He just absolutely obliterates him. Axel is so overpowered. He's just destroying everybody too. He was just attacking random people for no reason. Even Kim and Chosen are teaming up just to defeat all these people. My God. And everyone's just watching this unfold on TV back at home in the valley. And it's just man, this would be entertaining if I was watching this. I'm not gonna lie to you. I would wish I was there too. All I need is popcorn, a seat, and a drink. Honestly, this is like Netflix to me. Which is ironic, because this is on Netflix. Daniel's fighting the long-haired dude, and then, Johnny's obviously fighting Wolf because of their beef over steak. And Daniel ends up helping him because, literally he's getting obliterated once he defeats, obviously, the long-haired dude. They're 2v1ing him, he's still winning. Somehow, Jesus. And then Johnny gets knocked out, and then he sees Kreese, so he runs after him because, of course. And of course, Kreese is going after Silver, actually, so they end up fighting. And then Silver gets really confident because he basically wins the interaction with Kreese, and, Kreese is on the ground, but he's still willing to fight. He does not give a damn. I mean, Kreese is a warrior, really, or a soldier, I should say. Then Johnny inevitably steps in because, even though Kreese is a piece of crap, Silver is even worse, so you gotta beat the hell out of him. Tori is struggling against Zara, so Robbie eventually has to step in. It must be like a Lawrence thing to just step in between other people's fights. Even Sam chimes in, and it's Sam, Tori, and Robbie against a bunch of just casuals. Robbie gets knocked to the ground because of, you guessed it, Quan, Jae-sung, just the infamous crash out. Then Sam tries to step in, and then Quan one-shots her, and then Axel sees that, and then he stops beating the crap out of Miguel just to beat the crap out of Quan. And it's why wasn't this Miguel's moment? Why? Oh my God, I already addressed this in my other video when I was talking about the love triangle between Axel, Miguel, and Sam, and it's again, refer back to that, because it's all I have to say is, I think the fundamental nature of why I don't like this is you're giving Axel a moment that Miguel should have, and it just takes away from Miguel's character, not only in this part, but in this season. And Quan just can't do anything to this man, Axel. Like, this man's a demon. He's freaking Terminator, freaking Ivan Drago. And eventually, Quan finds the knife that Kreese inevitably dropped, and yeah, the moment happens. Quan lunges at Axel, tries to kick him, and then tries to stab him, and falls on the ground on his knife and dies. Well, Kreese's knife. This is probably one of the most shocking moments in the whole series. It's on the same level as like Miguel falling off the railing and stuff of that nature. And it's just like, it's crazy that the tournament after this was even like reinstated to begin with. Like, I feel like logically the tournament would just be over. There is no redo. Like, obviously they stop it in Barcelona, but like then they reinstate it in the Valley. And I just feel like logically that just wouldn't happen. Like, this is one of the most shocking moments of some of these people's lives. Like, they actually saw somebody die. Now, obviously, some people are going to make defenses like, well, back in the day, they had the Sekai Tekai and, you know, Miyagi killed someone, so therefore it's okay that, you know, sometimes people make mistakes. But it's like, I feel like if people died back then during the tournament, you should just either make it a lot safer so that people, you know, don't die, or just not have the tournament after that. I honestly think having all those weapons so available to the public, even if you're just giving it to senseis, is really dangerous, to be honest. Like, you just have a bunch of, you know, like sharp, just powerful weapons just available on Sekai Tekai grounds. It's like very similar to like if they had like a gun range or like a gun market or something of that nature, like in the Sekai Tekai like lounge or something. If that was the case, people would definitely call it out and not allow that on tournament grounds. And I really do think it sucks that Quan inevitably dies, even though like he really didn't have to. Like, he was just a kid at the end of the day, and even though he did technically try to kill Axel, and he was very rage-filled, very resentful, very impulsive, like, he was just a kid, and Kreese was the one that put all these thoughts in his mind to begin with. Even though I think what he did was really stupid, and I think he's partially responsible, you know, at the end of the day, Kreese is a bastard, man. And the thing is, Quan could have been saved because Chosen was saved. You know, he was a piece of shit back in the day, and he even tried to kill Daniel, and he tried to kill his girl. Quan chose to listen to the wrong people, and it led him down a path of destruction. And that inevitably led to his demise. Sad. Now, finally, we are on to part 3. Just goes back to what I was already talking about before. They are already having a funeral for Quan. You know, Kreese is actually having some character development for once in the whole series. Wow. No, I'm just joking, but like, he actually is showing remorse for the fact that Quan dies, and it's like, it's something that you would not expect off rip because of how Kreese is, but this is the moment that actually was gonna change him. And I mean, I kind of had a theory that this could potentially happen, but I wasn't sure if they were gonna go this direction. But you know, people already theorized it as well, so like, yeah, this was kind of inevitable. Now, all of episode 11 is just basically everyone kind of like trying to cope with the fact that, you know, they literally just saw like a student die and the tournament is over. So like, they're trying to figure out what to do with their normal lives now. Now, obviously that's short-lived because of Terry talking to the announcer guy to get everything, you know, the Sekai Tekai reinstated. But, you know, instead of it being in Barcelona, it's in the Valley. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that he would even like consider reinstating the tournament in any capacity, given the fact that, you know, a student just died. And of course, Kim's grandfather is really pissed off because like he literally just lost one of his students because of Kreese. Like, yeah, I'd be pissed off not only at Kreese, but the students as well. And Kim, to be honest. Actually, more so the senseis than the students. The students are just, they didn't do anything. Now, that's not an excuse to torture Yoon and the rest of his students, but like, yeah. I think honestly, Terry Silver is probably the most manipulative person besides Kreese in this entire series. Like, he really got Johnny and Daniel on his side when it comes to bringing the tournament back on. Like, honestly, that's an accomplishment. I also love the scenes where Johnny is talking with Carmen about, you know, their future and the baby and stuff like that. And it's really just heartfelt. Like, so it's some of the most heartfelt scenes in the whole season, to be honest. I also like the scene where we get confirmation that Kimiko does not like Chosen, not like that at least, but she does view him as a friend and a good friend, and she does love him, but obviously, he did try to kill her, so it makes sense why she would, feel the way she feels about him. And even though, Amanda does get annoyed sometimes at Chosen constantly being around the house and getting in the way and stuff of that nature and just being loud and annoying, at the end of the day, she still cares about him. She actually felt bad for the fact that Kimiko wasn't actually interested in him, just like Daniel. Obviously, they decide to cheer Chosen up, but while this is happening, you have Sam trying to talk to Tori to get her back into the tournament, not just for herself, but for Tori, because she actually cares. And again, this is one of the better scenes in the show. Like, these two, at least in this season, are great, honestly. Man, I love seeing them interact and actually be friends. I'm also glad that Dimitri, Hawk, and Miguel are trying to actually train Robbie, to get him ready to fight Axel, because nobody actually scored a point on him, and he's one of the most overpowered characters in the series, at this given point. So it makes logical sense. You have to be prepared. I also really love that Carmen names the baby Laura, just like Johnny's mother, and that's just a really cool little thing that they did. And honestly, I do like the whole sequence where everyone shows up and it's just there for her as the baby is born, and then they had the pseudo marriage, like I mentioned earlier. This is one of my favorite moments in the entire series, honestly. The next part is basically just, the next episode where they're watching the, segment about the Sekai Tekai on television. And, it's just rage bait, honestly. Johnny's getting pissed off because his interview was cut short. And, Daniel's getting rage baited by Terry. And it's a whole thing. It's kind of funny, honestly. I mean, hell, even Zara's rage baiting Tori. I think it's funny. I also really love the conversations that Kreese has with not only Tori, but Johnny, just apologizing for everything that he's ever done and really showing remorse for just being this type of person, this guy who's just so, filled with trauma and just anguish, and anger and resentment, and just taking it out on literally everyone else. He caused the death of Quan. He's, brainwashed Robbie. He's brainwashed Tori. He's just caused so much turmoil for everyone, Johnny. And this is why I feel Kreese's arc throughout this whole season is a lot more satisfying than anything that Silver does. Not to say that Terry Silver isn't a good villain. I think he's very entertaining, and he was good in season 5 as well, and season 4. Season 4 was probably his best in terms of writing wise, but season 5 was also really good, and season 6, I feel they're kind of just dragging out his storyline. But Kreese, I feel they really needed this. This was a good conclusion for his character. And then he eventually, sacrifices himself to kill Terry, and I love the whole segment. But just talking about the apology for now, I do just really like how, even though he does apologize, he's not rewarded immediately. Johnny is still very apprehensive to forgive him, and he just wants to see Robbie fight in the Sekai Tekai. And of course, the tournament starts and everyone's all excited and stuff like that. Well, except Robbie, because, yeah, he knows he's gonna get cooked. But surprisingly, he actually does pretty well, and everyone's excited for him. Amanda's screaming, talking about kick some ass. Honestly, I think it's really just a cool moment where you finally get to see Robbie's prime. This is the strongest he's ever been, and he's going toe to toe with Axel, which is surprising because before he wasn't doing shit. But once the training sequence happened and he got a little bit more accustomed to how he fights, he was able to do a lot better. Obviously, Axel switched things up and stuff like that, but he was holding on and he did really well until Axel cheated. And honestly, if Axel didn't cheat, then Robbie definitely would have won. I really have my money on him. And even Robbie knows that. And, everyone was trying to, look out for him, just trying to console him after, he just got his leg broken. And it's honestly, I do really feel bad for him because I wanted him to win, even though I want Miguel to, beat Axel as well, because Axel's just been a prick the whole season. Obviously, again, I under the whole story, the sensei and everything like that, but he's still an asshole for no reason, specifically towards Miguel. I also really like this scene because it kind of reminds me of season 1 where he was fighting Miguel and, he got his shoulder injured and he was talking to Daniel and, he had the injury, just thinking about how he was going to win, just worried about everything. And it's just like, I really like, scenes like that where it's more calm and it's more like, focused on the character moments and, just characters trying to like actually uplift each other. And I love stuff like that. Even in this season, you have a scene like that in the locker room with like all the kids when they were in the second attack at Barcelona. I also really like, and this is probably one of my favorite scenes in the series as well. Again, a lot of them are in season 6. Even though I have been very critical of season 6, it has a lot of like some of the best stuff, honestly, that the show has ever given us. Mainly the character stuff, the character moments. And I really just love when Robbie is talking about the fact that he loves the fact that he has a father now, like he can reconcile with Johnny, and he has more friends now, like he made up with Miguel, like they're not enemies anymore. He has a loving girlfriend, like he has a family aspect. Even though he did not win the tournament, his life isn't over, essentially. The thing is, sadly, Kwan's life is over, and he put everything into karate and everything into winning the tournament, and it meant nothing. And that really goes back to what Tori was talking about in the previous conversation at episode 10, where she was essentially talking about the fact that a lot of people will put so much stock into being the best, only for it to mean nothing. And even Daniel's having that dream where, he's, dreaming about Miyagi and, the whole Karate Kid 1 sequence when Miyagi defended him against the skeletons. And that's why this episode is literally called Skeletons. Because essentially, like, he's thinking about the fact that he wants to, bring his teachings to the world. But the problem is Miyagi would have never wanted that. He has to remember that at the end of the day. And also to remember the fact that Miyagi is a good guy and he has reasons for doing everything, which ties into the fact that, he kept the fact that, he killed a guy during the second attack, and the fact that he, stole the necklace, which obviously I already said it was justified. It's about fighting for what's right, and at the end of the day, karate is for defense only, and that's what Miyagi-Do stands for. And bringing it to the world is not, how you do that, essentially. At least not in this way, winning the second attack, that's not necessary. I also do like at the end of this episode, we actually do get the conversation with Kreese and Johnny opens his heart to him, just talking about how he treated him so badly and how Kreese just like ruined his life, essentially. And, they hug, and, that's the first time. That's actually some of the best acting in the whole show. Like I said, Peyton List did well with, her being cast as Tori. And, she did well, when, Tori's mother died, but this is on par with that, honestly. And like, it's one of the best scenes in the show. And of course we get the big reveal because Kreese allowed Johnny to have control of Cobra Kai again. So Tori is going to be in Cobra Kai again, and Miguel Diaz. Now, the next episode is basically just Johnny and Daniel, and you're just reminiscing about everything that's happened. You get that shot where you get the strike first, strike hard, no mercy, sign, and you get to see those two, on the opposing sides. And that's actually a parallel to like what happened in season 1, where Daniel obviously first found out that Cobra Kai was being reinstated because of Johnny opening it back up. And now we're seeing that Johnny actually wants to encourage him to, fight in the Sekai Tekai for not only, himself, but like Miguel and Tori. And Daniel understands that just because his name Cobra Kai doesn't mean that inherently it has to be evil, because Johnny's under, the tutelage of all these people, so he can actually teach them properly. And Daniel's, made peace with that. And then they're just preparing for the tournament for the rest of the episode, and I really like that sequence where Johnny and Miguel are talking, and he's basically just encouraging him not to focus on anger necessarily, and to focus on, just doing what is right, and, winning the tournament to solidify that Cobra Kai is, is significantly different than what Kreese made it initially, and that the original Cobra Kai is Johnny Lawrence and is his version of, Cobra Kai, and just how he teaches and everything like that. When these two are on screen, it just makes the show like significantly better, because these are two literally like some of the best characters in the series. And honestly, I'm just really thankful that we got this show, man. Like, we finally get to see some of the best characters in the show interacting and just showing how far they've come. Like, Miguel's going to be All Valley, or not just an All Valley champ, but a Sekai Tekai, like, champion. And Johnny is going to be the same. Like, he was an ace degenerate, and now he's an ex degenerate. And even Sam and Tori are getting along, and, Sam is actually trying to teach Tori the drum technique, very similar to how Sam taught Miguel the drum technique in season 3. Then all that training and all that hard work finally pays off when Tori beats the hell out of Zara in the next sequence. And, basically it's just the Sekai Tekai, continuing, and, she has her battle. And, we really get that awesome moment where Robbie's, encouraging her, and he says that he loves her, and then they kiss, and then, that gives her basically a power, like not even a rage amp, it's like a love amp, or however you want to put it. It gives her a boost, basically. And honestly, Zara's a fraud. Like, we all knew it, to be honest with you. Like, she was trying to pose as this badass, and also this, like, female influencer who's, like, inspiring young, women and stuff like that. It's like, no, she's a fraud. She's terrible. And honestly, Tori beating the hell out of Zara is one of the most entertaining and satisfying things in the entire show. It's on the same level as, like, some of the best fights in the series. And honestly, one of them I would include, Robbie versus Quan. I also love how after her fight, Terry's trying to rage bait Daniel as if he gives a damn about Miyagi-Do not competing in the Sekai Tekai. And he literally just tells him, like, Cobra Kai never dies. So he does not give a damn. And it shows, like, not just how much Daniel's progressed as a person, and how much he's grown, and how much, development he's had with not only, other characters, but Johnny as well, and just, like, accepting Cobra Kai, like, his version of Cobra Kai. But it just shows how much Terry as a person has regressed, and how much this karate nonsense, and the rivalries, and the resentment, and the hatred has destroyed him as a person. It's made him so cold, calculated, and just, like, mean. And then the next fight, and what you would think is the last fight, is Miguel versus Axel. And honestly, this again is one of the most satisfying fights in the entire show. It's not nearly as good as, like, the Robbie versus Axel fight, the Robbie versus Quan fight, or the Tori versus Zara fight, but I think this fight is satisfying mainly because we finally get to see Axel lose, and we even get that scene just to commemorate, like, just everything Miguel has learned, and just like everything that he was talking about with the conversation with Johnny, just like fighting for himself, but not only that, just for Cobra Kai, like everything that they fought for. And honestly, I'm kind of a sucker for, like, when shows add flashbacks in the middle of, like, important moments, just to show you just how much has happened throughout the series, and just, like, how much these characters have grown. Like, I love that they have those in this fight. Now, it does slow down the fight a bit, and I kind of don't like it as much as an actual fight, but I like what it represents more so, and that's why it's good. And then the tradition for when two dojos have the same amount of points, apparently, the senseis have to fight. So Johnny gets a chance to beat the hell out of Wolf, and honestly, I'm here for it. Now, I said this earlier, but I'm glad that Kreese actually sacrificed himself in the next moment where, Terry's on the boat and he's willing to just do all this, crash out stuff to, Johnny and his baby and stuff like that. And Kreese just completely stops him, and, obviously sacrifices have to be made, so he dies, but then he kills Terry, while doing it. Honestly, I think it's a really good end for Kreese, and I'm glad he finally got to do something good for Johnny and basically everyone else by just getting rid of Terry completely. Now, the next and final episode of the entire series is called X Degenerate. Now, it's basically just commemorates every single character that's, been in the show, that's been the main character. Miguel, Robbie, Tori, Sam, Johnny, Daniel, Amanda, Carmen, even Dimitri, Hawk, like, everyone. This is the final show, or their final episode, and just the final, 49 minutes of the series. And honestly, I love everything that this episode does. We even get a sequence in the beginning of the episode where we get to see a flashback of just, his thoughts about his life and just, like, everything that, he missed out on and stuff of that nature. And then we flash back to present day where he's still, worried about just where his life is headed. He has a baby, and he's just trying to build a life for her and, for Carmen and Miguel, and just, like, trying to keep this family together while also worrying about the fight. I also like that Daniel and Johnny are training together, and Daniel essentially says, like, it doesn't matter if you win or not. It matters that you fight, you actually stand up for what you believe in, and stand up for your dojo. And they actually mention Rocky with this as well. It's another Rocky reference. Like, the whole point behind this is, like, you don't have to win to prove that you are worth something. And the thing is, with Robbie, he lost, but he's worth a lot. Like, like, he has a family, friends, a girlfriend, like he has everything he could ever want, regardless if he won the Sekai Tekai or not. And honestly, I just like where everyone was left off. Like, Miguel got into Stanford, Sam got to do her thing, outside of the valley in Okinawa, where Miyagi was, and he lived for a long time. And Tori and Robbie get to have their thing where they're basically going to be karate professionals, and they're going to get paid for it as well. I would say I'm happy for Dimitri, but I'm really not. I mean, I'm glad that Yasmin, and him are happy, I guess, but like, Dimitri is the worst character in the show, so that's whatever. And honestly, the whole fight between Wolf and Johnny is, definitely, it has a little bit of tension. Obviously, Johnny's gonna win, so it's not as good as like the other fights with the kids, but it's still a good moment, honestly. You even have moments where, even before this, he was trying to punk him out, like Wolf was trying to intimidate Johnny and stuff like that, but it's like, at the end of the day, like, Johnny's still gonna stand on his feet. Like, he's gonna land on his feet, and he's still gonna win. Like he's the main character. Obviously, he's not gonna lose. Like, they're not gonna do some sort of like subversion of like, we knew he was gonna win. I also like how everyone was in Cobra Kai gis, just like, representing Johnny, supporting him and supporting his version of Cobra Kai as well. And eventually, from everyone's support and Daniel's support, he eventually defeats Wolf, and he wins. He gets to hold up the trophy, everyone commemorates him, and, it's basically the complete opposite of what happened in Karate Kid 1. And honestly, this is one of the best scenes in the show. Like, you could honestly say it's the best, because it's literally what the show is about. Redemption, standing up on your feet, after you've been knocked down, and fighting for what's right. I'm also glad that Chosen and Kim are going to be happy together, forever, because obviously Kimiko, wasn't into him like that. So, I'm glad he had a good ending overall. And honestly, Chosen has been one of the most interesting ideas for the show, because at first, he obviously was the antagonist for the second movie, but seeing him grow as well is on the same level as Johnny, because he was a huge, like, very powerful and very, feared antagonist. And just seeing him grow from like where he used to be is just so satisfying. I also love that last scene, where Johnny gets to see, his mother's grave again, Laura's grave, and he puts the picture of not only Carmen with the baby, but Miguel himself and Robbie, and it's just like, that's such a wonderful moment. Like, I love this episode. And the last scene in the show is basically just Johnny teaching Cobra Kai, and he's basically showing that not only do you need to learn Cobra Kai sometimes, but you also need to learn Miyagi-Do, and that life, you need to have balance. Sometimes you need to have defense, sometimes you need offense, and that really is, exemplified by like everything in the show. And I'm really glad that we get to see what strike first, strike hard, no mercy means to Johnny at this given point at the end of the show, because at the beginning it was basically just Kreese's version of Cobra Kai, but now it's his version. And that's it. That is the end of Cobra Kai. Now, I know this is a very long-winded video, and I know I talked for a long time, but I'm glad, if you did stay tuned for the whole thing, you actually watched it all the way through, and then just like skip, parts. I thank you. I really am, glad that I have such loyal fans and, or subscribers, or however you want to put it. Like, I'm really glad that, you guys love the show just as much as I do. And I really just wanted to talk about all this because, not only has the show done a lot for me, but it's done a lot for a lot of people. And, I will say it spoke to me specifically just because, it was a show that, had a lot of like great themes in terms of like, sacrifice, how much you'll do to be the very best. And just like, it's a coming of age story, not just for Johnny, but for Miguel as well. This is one of the best shows I have ever watched in my life, and honestly, it's changed a little bit too. Now, I have all these, wonderful, viewers and stuff like that, and honestly, I hope you guys are ready for the future, because I'm going to be making so much more content. I'm going to be making it a lot more often. I promise to that, like 2026, I'm definitely going to lock in. Comment, subscribe, like, and just, stay tuned for more content. It's coming very soon. I'm also going to break up these parts into videos just in case you want to just refer back to each part individually. And that's all I have to say for today. And, I'll see you guys later. Peace.
No way, Jose.
Red Hot Gotti, come subscribe, like, come subscribe, like, come subscribe, like, come subscribe.